Okay, so I'm joined here by two great people, and someone else is joining us. And then we had someone who decided to be sick today, so that was Max from Hype 10. So we miss you, Max. I have Phoenix here. Most recently, she was running a TikTok shop at Instant Hydration. She is working as a creative for a bunch of interesting companies now, and she works with me also at CreativeOS. I also have Cam here, who is leading TikTok shop at Portland Leather, which I know all of you know. And so I am really excited to talk to them about TikTok and learn just along with you guys as well. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into my first question, right? So like first we're going to be talking about like what it means to be building a winning TikTok ad foundation. So Phoenix, I'll kick off with you. What's the biggest misconceptions brands have about TikTok ads right now?
I think that it's going to be profitable right away. I think that's the biggest misconception. I think there's ways to do things. And I think if you come in guns blazing day one thinking that it's going to be like meta ads, it's not. It's going to be completely different. And I think also another big misconception is not leveraging or assuming that you don't have to leverage organic as much or internal content, that you only leverage affiliates. And I think that to me is a huge unlock a lot of people haven't really delved into, but it is a lot of work. So I guess that's my third misconception, that it's just easy lift and you're good to go. It is a living, breathing ecosystem and machine, and it should be treated as such. So yeah.
Cam, do you have any pushback against that, or do you kind of say like plus one to what Phoenix had to say?
Yeah, I agree with all that. It also depends on like the phase of growth that a company's in, right? Like cold start brands, of course, are going to have a way different experience than brands that have creative, that have content, that have history on the platform.
Sure.
GMV Max is still, a black box to a lot of people. We're all kind of trying to figure out what the heck it's doing and what it means half the time. But there are definitely ways to influence the success that brands can have with it.
Well, we're also joined here by Cherene, CEO of Growth Capital, amazing growth partner, formerly of Bobbie and ILIA fame, I guess CTC fame as well, and second best hair in D2C after me. Um, Hey, Cherene. So we started off with a big
Hello.
question. Phoenix and Cam came with some real heat on it. What's the biggest misconceptions brands have about TikTok ads?
Yeah, the biggest misconception um, is the volume of content you need to be successful on TikTok. And then I think the second biggest misconception, or maybe it's like kind of, I don't know if it's obvious. I don't know if this is obvious or not to brands, but the TikTok BAU campaign performance has degraded over time as TikTok has shifted its focus to GMV, and is prioritizing GMV max ads. And so if you're not on TikTok Shop, you're missing out on, getting better inventory from TikTok.
Great point. Great point. Okay, so we're gonna move on to our next question that I have for you guys. If you were launching a TikTok shop brand today, where would you spend your first 10K? I think Phoenix, you had a pretty strong POV on this, but I'm gonna start with Cam here first. Um, where would you start with the first 10 G's?
It's a great question. Um, I would make sure inventory, as Shireen just mentioned, is probably like dialing in the back end operations of the ecosystem that you're building. Make sure you have enough product, especially if you have someone that can launch successfully in the brand or an agency and a rep that can help you launch successfully. If you scale fast and you can't support the demand that TikTok has the power of creating, it's going to hurt the momentum, right? So if again, depends on a lot of different. It's a nuanced question, but if I were suggesting where to spend 10K, it'd be make sure you have enough product to support what you can create on TikTok Shop.
Shireen, how would you respond?
I think if I had 10K and you were like, start, I'm going to assume I already had inventory. And
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I'm going to put that money into the platform. Where do I put it into the platform? Two things, kind of touching on what Cam, you're saying. I'm going to invest in sampling and affiliate commission and affiliate campaigns. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build a community. I'm not even going to put money into ads yet. I'm going to build a community, acquire that community. I'm going to engage them. I'm and that's through giving them free product, briefing them, giving them incentives, being ready to pay any commissions that they generate off of sales. And once I get that content in and I start to see how it performs, then I'm gonna think about putting spend behind it.
Oh,
You're mute.
Phoenix, do you have a differing point of view, or is this just kind of like a plus one plus one?
no, I have a completely different point of view.
Oh, let's go.
I mean, it's a little bit different. Like let's take it in the lens of like where my brain's at, because if I have a team that's able to create content, that's where I'm going to really put all the money towards. So what I would do is I actually would create 4 different accounts and like link them to our TikTok shop if possible. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start creating personas for each of those accounts. So if it's going to be health specific, maybe I go for moms. One is like hyper health for men, and then maybe just one overall overarching like dump account, which would be like AI content. And then I would have one more that was geared towards, let's just say, like health and wellness overall, like a little bit like lighter touch. And then what I would do is I would take that budget and I would actually deploy it for internal content and or like just as much diversity in content and hooks and angles as much as possible just to see where we land. Because in reality, I think in today's day and age, you just can't come in cold with the community and hope that it works. Sometimes it does. Like you get really lucky, but when I was with Instant, it took a long time to pick up steam to get the attention of big creators. And even the big creators weren't like a surefire slam dunk. We were really rare. We were like the 1 to 10% in the ecosystem that was driving the majority of revenue from internal content. And then the rest was affiliate. The affiliate component is getting harder and harder each day because the competition is really big. So what I would say is nail your ICP, nail your angles, nail what actually drives attention on TikTok, because guarantee it's different from Meta usually. And then from there, start picking up steam and going from there. And then I would inject into GMV max. But yeah, that's my take. It's a little different.
Well, I think like if I'm pulling the thread as I'm supposed to do this, like all of this is really about infrastructure, right? Like everything comes down to whatever your POV is on it. If you're trying to go for community, like trying to seed internally, if you're trying to go for community, if you're trying to like maintain your back end, every single one of them is you need to make sure that you are set up for success because this thing can move really fast. I think this is kind of the maybe the difference in TikTok versus something like Meta is like it can move fast, it can get away from you some of the time. So really great there. Next big one. And I think it's kind of funny because it's a nice dovetail off of the answers that you all gave. What's the biggest mistake that brands make on TikTok before they even start scaling?
I'm gonna say
And Cherene, you're oh, Phoenix, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
Shereen.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, like, again, not testing organic. Like this platform is primed for virality. It really is. So why are we not putting our attention there? And I think the biggest misconception I see brands, especially the bigger they get, is that they start to do more commercial like content for organic because they really want to preserve what brand they have and like the footprint they have on this platform, not realizing you're playing in their ecosystem. They're not playing in your ecosystem. So you have to be able to get on there and gain the attention, and you have to test what does that. Obviously, still fitting within brand guidelines to a certain extent, but it can't be so refined. And I think that's like a big unlock. And what I am very intrigued by sometimes is I'll go and I'll see some brands that have so much potential to have like maybe another extra 100K a month to 200K a month if they just invested in their own internal content. But instead, you look on their page and it's like 3 pieces of content. It's dead. There's no like brand identity. You just have to really rely on the TikTok shop storefront to tell the story. So that would be mine.
Yeah, and I think this is like a bigger symptom for scaled brands. And I think, I work with a lot of scaled brands who have an existing strong D2C business, maybe even a strong omni-channel business, and then they're entering TikTok meaningfully from a commercial standpoint for the first time. And they really, I think what you're saying, Phoenix, is like they're really missing the point there. Like they're not ready to create the content that the platform wants because they have such a high brand perception and aesthetic that they want to preserve. So I don't know the solution to that. Can you tell me, guys? Tell me.
Cam's got to give us a solution. He's bringing up the caboose here. We need answers, Cam.
We need answers, Cam.
And sorry, what am I solving for?
Come on, are you even paying attention anymore?
Yeah.
Woo!
I was thinking about how I wanted to answer the what's the biggest misconception question.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess what's your version? We'll see if it slots in against the questions that Phoenix and Shireen have been pondering.
Yeah, I was thinking because I always come from the perspective of like try everything. Like have your stuff dialed in on the back end, have your listings optimized to make sure your images also tell the story, make sure your assortment is like set up properly and that you are thinking about merchandising, make sure you are thinking long term instead of like what's happening right now. Um, the biggest misconception though, like I think that TikTok isn't a beneficial function for a business, right? It's still, I think a lot of companies are still thinking about it like, um, the content quality isn't what we want representing our brand. I've worked with several brands who want it to look and be a specific way, and so they put a lot of limitations on the growth and scale that they can have because of what TikTok still represents in a lot of people's minds, right?
Yeah.
I agree with everything that's been said as far as like organic content goes. Absolutely. The different marketing accounts you can have, absolutely. Different personas, absolutely. Um, yeah, it all plays into how big and how much scale you can have on the platform.
Yeah, and I maybe one more misconception I would add is like the misconception, the biggest one is that it's like going to be perform as well as Meta from a conversion standpoint if you just put direct response dollars into the platform. And then I see brands, even small brands, having this tendency to want to invest in like Meta upper funnel before they invest in TikTok conversion. And I'm like, TikTok conversion is a better upper funnel media buy than a Meta reach campaign or a traffic campaign or whatever. Like it is a conversion campaign type, but it is driving awareness and building the funnel and bringing in new audiences. And maybe you're not getting those new audiences on Meta. Maybe they're on TikTok.
Well, to double tap that, Shireen, is if you have a platform that's able to tell you whether it's a first party data platform, whatever it is, that tells you percentage of new customers coming to site from these channels, you would be shocked at the meta, especially at scale, the meta percentages versus the TikTok percentages. We were in the high 80 to 90 percentile for a TikTok, which just shows you there's a huge market there that's untapped. Also, like, this is such a big question, Chase, and it made my brain go. And I'm like, we're all saying the same thing, but not addressing it directly. Like, the biggest misconception is that you and your CFO are going to get along if you're all for it. Like, the biggest problem, and I think your biggest stopgap in the business is going to be your CFO, because the
Yeah.
CFO is going to want to know number to number and try to have some type of attribution that is clean. And there is no clean attribution, truly. There's also the idea of the halo, right, to Amazon. And everyone's trying to create a solution. House is trying to create a solution. There's like so many different platforms trying to do this. I have yet to find one that has something concrete enough that a CFO is going to justify shifting a huge budget towards TikTok. But in reality, like Meta is still funky. We're getting grayer and grayer every day with Meta. And there was a really cool panel that Cam and we were there at that summit for. I don't know, Cam, if you were sitting there with me for it, but there was a panel where like Shark Ninja, I think like the head at Fenty and like some of the biggest players in TikTok shop were sitting there and saying like, if you are so hung up with the CFO and with the numbers, you're going to miss the biggest opportunity in terms of Halo and overall. Like, obviously, you need to know your numbers to a certain extent, but like that is the biggest gripe you're going to have. Because, like I said in the beginning, if you assume that you're going to be profitable right off the bat, what is profitable and what does it mean to you? And like, what does TikTok actually do? And to Shireen's point, is it top of funnel? And which one's more efficient at that, et cetera? So,
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. And the solution that I found for many brands that I've worked with and work with is like you actually need to potentially recategorize TikTok media investment out of direct response. And
Mm.
some brands maybe don't have the luxury to do that yet. And they need to prove out their meta investment first before they can invest in like brand media. But
So
if
that's
you
where you would slot it in then. Shireen is brand media.
it's slotted in as brand media with any other brand media investment. And I think you still are looking at the bottom line P&L and driving a profitable business, and you still carve out a budget for brand building. But if you give a growth marketer a budget and you say, go find me direct response conversions, and like that growth marketer is not going to put the money into TikTok because they're like, well, I'm going to get my best conversions out of Meta. And then they're losing out on reaching a new audience in a way that's harder to measure. Unless you have incrementality testing, which if you're not spending to the level where incrementality testing makes sense, then you need to, I don't know, good luck out there.
This is one of the things that no one talks about is like incrementality is always a buzzword that everyone is playing around with, but you definitely need to be at a certain scale to be able to actually. So like instant, ILIA, PLG, you can all do all of those things. Incrementality testing makes a whole lot of sense for a brand who's starting out and nascent in TikTok and just as a whole. You're going to be going off, I don't want to say like a feeling, but the data will not be as significant as that. And so it's really important to not get too hung up on like the Twitter threads of it all. And like again, like listen to marketing operators, but those guys are operating at a scale that you're not right now, and it's okay
Yeah, I'm glad you
to
brought that out, Chase.
like pull the thread and say this is important, but like I can't sit here and try to be like it's just orders of magnitude different. And so like you have to consume the content understanding that you're not there, work towards it, but like don't get too hung up on it. I mean, I think this kind of dovetails into my last question from this section, and we don't have to go too long on this, but on a measurement on a 30, 60, 90 on TikTok and TikTok Shop, how do you guys think about like what is the actual thing people should be measuring? Like it's funny because we're saying, well, like measurement is kind of wonky all the time, but often not perfect here. What is the directional way that you would suggest someone measures this channel?
Yeah, I think the first best, I mean, I think you guys mentioned this. If you don't have incrementality testing, you go back to the caveman days where you're like, I'm spending money and am I getting new customers in at a CAC that allows me to be first order profitable or have the economics that makes sense for the business? And then you can layer in stuff like post purchase or survey, um, and then incrementality testing.
I love that you said caveman days because not many people realize like that is such fire. Like that she just said that, and I don't know if anyone clocked it, that she just said caveman days is first purchase profitability. That's so crazy. Oh, so good. Because if you don't get it, you don't get it. But that's at scale to your point, Cherene.
Yeah.
Like that's like fair.
What like are there any other metrics or ways like are we just we're gonna stick with caveman days and I'll just move on to my next one, which is what the people actually really want. I'm gonna talk about creative that scales now. So let's like I want to go to first this question of like what separates winners and losers on TikTok ads, and more from a creative lens. So obviously there's a bunch of back end stuff, which is your product, your offer, all of this stuff. I guess is that really the actual thing that dictates it, or is it the creative that sits on top of that that dictates it? And I'm gonna go Cam first. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'll always like most upstream is definitely product, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm coming from Social Commerce Club, worked on 17 accounts while I was there across several different categories, so I saw a lot. Now I'm at PLG, which is a scaled brand that's been here for a decade, that has the community, that has the product, that has the longevity in the market. So it's a totally different, like, it's a different way of thinking about TikTok Shop when you get to that level of scale. Product is number one, though. Like, PLG is PLG because of the product, right? The leather is premium leather, first grade, like it's the best of the best, but we're able to sell it at a price that doesn't feel that way. You can afford it, right?
Yeah.
So that definitely matters. Now, when we go to creative, when I'm speaking to our best creators and any of the best creators on the platform, they're not trying to create the most amount of videos. They're trying to create the best videos that convert the best. Like, and that's how GMV Max works. It's looking at the videos that have the highest probability of selling a product. If it doesn't have that probability, it's going to turn it off. It's going to automatically filter that out. right? We can get into the nuances of the structure of campaigns and things, but I'm all for letting the algorithm and the AI do what it does because it's set up that way. Why not play its game, right? But you can control it with more and better content. If I'm talking to any media buyer that is trying to influence GMV max, there really aren't there's two levers. There's daily spend and there's return, right? And the way that you control those and the way you get better at both is more better content. The best of the best creators know how to do it, but you need a good mix, right? You need the like average creators, you need the like proficient creators, and then above proficient creators. But those above proficient creators can coach everyone else on how to create better content that converts with the product that's being sold. Does that make sense?
100%. What
But
do you
it is a volume game. You need a lot of videos. But to Phoenix's point, organic is the best way to do that outside of affiliate.
Phoenix, do you have a similar take, or are you again going to come with like some sort of different angle?
I have like a different, well, no, I wouldn't say different angle. I do agree with him to a certain extent, like, because I think it's the same but different. I have this really cool perspective that's a little bit different because I'm also a creator on the TikTok shop. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm a psycho, if anyone doesn't know. And, like, I was, like, very blessed to be able to scale a TikTok shop or a shop. And then I was like, you know what? Why don't I do it on the creator side? And took it for 1 month and went full steam ahead and like learned. And what was crazy is that like the products that did the best wasn't necessarily the offer, wasn't necessarily like really anything aside from the ability to hook. So like all it was for me, like there was one that ripped, which was sea grapes. And that was like ASMR. It was like crunchy sea grapes. And like somehow, and the funny thing about it is like the product benefit is that it's a longevity product. I didn't know that. I just like ate sea grapes online and was like drooling. But then another one was nanohydroxyapatite. So I think another component to that we're not really thinking about is like what is trending. So if you're looking at the products that are trending within that period of time, nanohydroxyapatite was a trending word. There's like a whole SEO component to it too, and like that I knew was on its way. And then if you can find a way to make something really complex simple, it really is the creative. So I think those are some things because nanohydroxyapatite was coming up, but it wasn't having as much impact until you have like a marketer come in and say something about it or a different idea behind it. Now, I will tell you, if you have like a higher price product, it's hard entry. So like
Yeah.
that is it's I think it's a combination of all the things. Like you're what is the point of a meta ad? Let's just like start there. The point of an ad is to gain someone's attention, to bring them to the store, a qualified lead in order for them to convert at the store, at the website, etc. It's kind of the same thing with TikTok. The only difference is the ecosystem is within. So if I take them there and the store looks bonk or like the product page looks a little sketch and there's not enough people who've bought from it, right? That's gonna impact your conversion. There's also another component on offer that we can't even control, which is gonna be like the coupons, the things that TikTok offers people, right? And I'm sure Cam and Cherene have seen this. It's like this massive surge in GMV Max suddenly happened because TikTok decided to give them a $5 coupon, and all these components. So I think if you were to focus on anything, number one, does the product have viral or the viral ability, or can you make it viral-esque? I don't know. And then number two, do you have enough creative to support that and lean into it? Number three,
Yeah.
make sure like everything's sound on the product page.
Yeah, from a content standpoint, I think most of my experience is through the beauty, category, and beauty being one of the biggest categories on TikTok Shop. Doesn't necessarily always translate to the brands that are the biggest on TikTok Shop for beauty are the ones that are the biggest in retail or D2C. And typically the biggest beauty brands that are doing the most volume in Sephora and Amazon and D2C have like very stringent requirements for content. So
Yeah.
when I look at the TikTok channel and sourcing content or even TikTok Shop, it is for me like one of the best places to get a high volume of content. And you have your influencers that you can go out to and have like fixed fee agreements that you pay to get content. And it's all about how you brief them. It's all mostly from what I found the hook. Like Phoenix was saying, how good can you hook them? And for like sea grapes, I've seen Phoenix come up on my feed organically without even following her. I saw those. I almost bought those mushrooms, but then I was like, don't There's probably some weird stuff in there, but I almost bought them.
They're
But
You
she's,
gotta
bomb.
support. You gotta support the homies.
I
No, no, no.
know.
I don't care about
Oh,
that. They're just bomb.
yeah.
You need them. No.
I really want them, but she's so good at hooking. And I think there are creators that are successful on the platform. I almost put them in two categories. One, people just want to mindlessly tune out and watch these people talk for like 2 minutes or do whatever they do for 2 minutes. And then the other is like the affiliate that is like the salesperson that is like hooking you and getting you to buy something. And if you're like for beauty brands or scaled brands, you probably want a little bit of both. You want the brand strategy for beauty brands is they work with these like creators that are talk about whatever for way too long and it probably doesn't even perform in, direct response. And then you have your hook creators and that type of like I would say those are the two content buckets that work for beauty.
All right. So, do you guys have a framework for testing new creative? I mean, like all of this stuff kind of dovetails into each other because like there's shades of this in every single one of your answers. But I think we're talking creative, creators, briefing, hooks, all these things matter. Is there a way or a methodology that you're using? And I think uh, Phoenix, you'll have a really interesting take on this because of the fact that you've done both on both sides of it. But I'm curious if there's a methodology you go like an ABC on this. And so I've started Cam and Phoenix first this time. So I want to go Cherene. Like, is there a methodology you guys are using within Growth Capital? Is it brand by brand? Or is there kind of like a, hey, we're going to use this and this is how we do everything?
Yeah, I think it starts with where is the majority of your money going for most brands? It's Meta, and Meta requires a high degree of creative diversity. And then I look at like what are the pipelines and where is content coming from? And one of those sources is TikTok and affiliates. Specifically, like TikTok Shop affiliates is one content source. So I think it first starts with like we use a framework, a creative diversity matrix, and we want to make sure that we have content types by product or by whatever's important to the brand funnel or channel or platform. And then I think within TikTok itself, primarily if we're working with creators, I think the thing that we're testing is our briefs. And so it's like, okay, we have these briefs, we're giving them to creators. Sometimes we are very prescriptive where we have creators and we will brief the creator specifically based on the type of content that performs best for them organically. And we'll actually like study their feed and their best performing content and we'll brief according to their style. And then other times we'll be like, this is just a performance brief and we're going to seed it out to as many people as possible. And we get a cohort of ads. We launch them. I don't even want to get to like ad account structure and testing philosophy. I mostly want to talk about content. But then we'll actually like determine like what worked best. Was our brief a hit or a miss? And how do we iterate on our brief for next time to be better? So we've done so much testing with like brief iteration.
Yeah.
And then that works until it doesn't. So it doesn't matter. You got to reinvent yourself every few weeks anyways.
Cam, what's your take been obviously coming from running multiple brands at social commerce and then like coming in and focusing on one brand at Portland Leather? How are you thinking about creative and the framework for
Yeah.
testing?
Man, I'll say that my perspective has changed so much like being in brand versus like on the outside as an agency. We have a very agency perspective when at an agency, right? When you're in a brand, it's completely different in some ways. I'm going to use Portland Leather as the example because that's like the most like top of mind thing that I can compare right now. Our differentiation in content is coming from different products and like we have a large assortment of bags. Each bag has several different variants, colors, sizes. All of those can be different pieces of content. Size comparison, color comparison, leather education is a great one. And we have creators who do short 15 to 30-second videos, and then we have creators that talk for 3 minutes in one of their videos. Both work well. I also wanted to bring up, like, I know not to take away from any of the other companies that do this. Reacher, I know that they're a partner of your guys's or a partner on this summit. We use them internally. We use them at Social Commerce Club as well. They have a great social listening tool that shows they have a tool now that shows exactly what the angle, what the script, what the hook was per video, and you can filter that out by impressions, by GMV. It's a great way to see every single month what the best videos are. And then I've always seen it as how many creators can we get to create in a similar way with their own style with what works, right? If we know a hook works, or we know an angle works, or we know a specific like way of talking about the product works, don't want to take away creators wanting to have their own style, but and their own technique. But if you know it works, duplicate it in your own way over
Yeah.
and over and over and over, right? Because creators want to make money too, and we're trying to help them make as much money as they
Yeah.
can while we're doing the same.
So essentially what we're saying is like once you like find oil, like just drill for that oil, right? And pump essentially that oil as long as you possibly can with that hook angle, etc.
Yeah, and it's different, right? Per product, like a supplement or a beauty, like you have to prove that it works.
Yeah.
Supplements, you have to get trust in your content. You have to show, Chirene said it, there's probably weird stuff in that. You have to tell them what the products are, what the ingredients are. Same
Yeah.
thing with beauty. What am I putting on my face? What's in this cream? That's the stuff that sells. You have like we're consumers are smart and they want to know exactly what they're buying, especially now, especially on TikTok.
I feel like I'm going to start my own version of this, like John is suggesting in the chat, and my entire angle is going to be like, I'm not telling you shit. You're just going to buy it because like I have great hair is essentially what it's going to be. Phoenix, what do you think about this? Do you have a framework for testing new strategies? And like my actual big question is, did it change from being kind of a brand side to being creator side in terms of testing?
Yeah, I did. First and foremost, Shireen, there's a hell of a lot of sodium in those
I knew
mushrooms.
it. I knew it.
But don't eat them all in one sitting like
Well,
I
you should have
do.
seen, you should have, she sent me a picture. She was all shriveled up because she had so much soda. She
No, I'm
dehydrated herself.
Chinese. We don't shrivel. We
Yeah.
thrive. Um, no, I've eaten so many of them and I'm fine, Shireen. So here's your case
I'm
study
gonna,
right here.
I'm checking out right after this.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah, my perspective has changed. So like, look, I'm gonna be super blunt. There are dumb ads and there are smart ads, right? Like, and the dumb ads to me are, and everyone can kill me for this, but like, I can't stand the ads that go for like crazy, crazy hooks that are so either fear inducing or like kind of attacking. That's been a big thing on TikTok. So like if you guys hear pity titties a lot, like that is a phrase that is huge when it comes, I know it's terrible. Um, that is like related to high cortisol and certain mechanisms that are related to supplements and or products that help you. So they do like something funny and a little crazy. And then there's other sides of it which are more educational. I always lean more towards that. The educational side to me makes me feel like I can elevate the product while also informing them while also being their friend. I believe in a structure called, I say this to Odd Founder, is a base. So you have a base, and that base is the most important thing on TikTok because TikTok is basically a billboard, right? You're going to have to see it a million times to finally understand it. So the messaging has to be the same all throughout. And there's three specific benefits, like, or three specific things you put in your base always. Is it flavor? Is it benefits? Is it ingredient? And you can switch up what the base is first, second, and third, but the hook is always going to change. And that hook is going to bring in that audience and it's going to hit that target audience. So is it moms? And then we talk about the base. And is it, whatever it is. So I always thought for supplements and smart ads, that's the way to go about it. Now, as a creator, it's a little bit different. No one knows who I am, except for Shireen, apparently. Uh, no one knows personally who I am. They probably have bought from me at some point in time. So I chose that at a very young stage where I didn't need to be an influencer. So I had a lot to play with. But my own shtick is I'm just chaotic and I talk and I try things. Now, the way that I test things has more freedom on a personal front than I would on a brand side. So, on a brand side, I don't get the leeway of being chaotic and my personality. I have to be a little bit more structured, have that base, but still find hooks that adhere. And it's more of a marketing standpoint. For me personally, and as Shireen would know, it's a lot of ASMR. It's a lot of having boogers in my nose because I know people are going to be fixated on that instead of the product and somehow hear about it later. It's a lot about what I know will generate revenue. But just as a sidebar on this, and whatever brand that is on this and thinking about potentially starting on TikTok Shop, Just understand that as a creator, what we look for is usually not in the creative collab invites, by the way. I don't spend a lot of time there. Once I hit like 50K and GMV a month, I was like, I don't need this. I actually just want to look at things I like and I know are going to work. So what I'll do is I'll go into the search bar and look up snacks and I'll think of viral moments of things like, oh, I could do that. And then I request samples. So 90% of the stuff that I've sold a crazy amount of has never been from the collab invites and the briefs, weirdly enough. This is a me specific thing. It has always been the things that I know that I could really hook. It's just a different perspective. Everyone's different.
I have a question for you, Phoenix. Are you a part of brand discords? Like, what do you think of that?
So here, that also changed for me too. I created a Discord. I created a whole WhatsApp group. I facilitated that when what was at IH. And then what I would do too, like, is that all these young creators that would come in, young being like new to the platform or gaining momentum, because I'm like, how do I foster that? I would take their videos and edit them myself and give them 4 different variations to post. That did okay. But then as a creator, I realized I don't care about this. I don't have time for this. I don't want this. And like to the point where like it was annoying because I've got a Lark group. So for those of you who don't know, Lark is like the internal comms for TikTok Shop. And then, you think as a creator, you're like, oh, I'm in a Lark group. I don't want to hear about it. And then I've got this and that. The best way to communicate with me, which has been some of the best is just DMing me and knowing that it's a real person. So there's this company called Kavahole who reached out to me and we had like a 15-minute conversation about God, like out of nowhere. Or I had a conversation with another like Loosey Goosey, which, partnered with me and they're like, we really love your content, even though you only, generated 15 sales. We want to invest in you. Like, how can we work together? Those were super cool. The other ones were very gimme, 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 and then I'll stop talking. It's a lot, but there's one called Harry's, I believe, or David's toothpaste, which is the nanohydroxyapatite. And I just want to give you some context. Like I sold so much of their product, like thousands, I think like 14,000 pieces in a month of toothpaste. And they gave me a $149 ACH send and a PR box, which was this big. So like you have to think about that. And it was an agency on behalf of the brand. And mind you, like I'm a marketer, so I could care less. I'm like, here's my husband, like take it, and I'm grateful. But you have to remember, like, how are you standing out? And Goalie's done a really great job of that. Physician's Choice has done a really good job of that. If you see the back end sheet of their like contests, it's crazy.
But I think this is a really important point. Like as an on brand side, when you're thinking about creators and how to actually like we're talking about GMV maxing here, like actually winning on the platform, your program does really matter. How you treat the people that are out there on the front lines doing this work for you really does matter. And it starts at the beginning, and having that foundation and that standard. And it's better to do less, but do it well than try to do more and get a reputation where you're on a summit with hundreds of people and someone mentions the fact that you did that. So I think it's really important. One thing I want to come back to what Phoenix said, like there's three, and I'm going to put it in my own language here, but there's like the on-ramp, the bridge, and the destination in the ad. So like hook, bridge them through the content, close them because they've now paid attention. And so I just want to remind people, like, again, you can mix and match these things, but like a hook is a hook, a bridge is a bridge, like the CTA or closing point is a closing point. And I think like these are all really great points. I know we're getting close to the end of our session. I think I want to go to like what's working right now. So, what's one ad strategy that you guys have seen recently that's outperforming everything else today on TikTok? And I'll go Cherene first on this one.
Yes, I love this question because I kind of feel like it lets me be spicy and say that's the wrong question. And I think it's a constant evolution of what could work.
Yep.
But I mean, you nailed it, Chase. It's like the hook. If you can kind of have like as a marketer, you kind of understand the format. It's like a hook. What is the problem solution, benefits, value props, and how do you close them? Like that is kind of like the framework. Um, but then if you get too comfortable, performance can start to degrade. You can't just rinse and repeat the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. maybe we throw out that question because Shireen just
No.
kind of like she kind of punted me. Uh, I felt like you messied me right now. Are there any like maybe does anyone else have a contrarian take on that? What's one tactic you think brands should stop using right now? That's a better question, actually. So what are people doing right now that you think like dead that shit? All
I'm
right,
gonna
Phoenix, go
Sorry, I
jump in.
talk a lot, but it's so meaningful. Stop using AI for apparel and like AI girls, AI guys, like for apparel. The minute I sniff it, I will never shop from you ever again. You might think that you're getting mass, like you're getting volume. What you're doing is you're actually damaging the validity of your product. And you know who did this and no one caught on at large was Kylie Jenner's K2O's like whatchamacallit, electrolytes. And mind you, it's Kylie Jenner, so we're like, okay, cool. But the minute I saw that and I saw people seeing and catching on, it was crazy. That's the no-no.
We didn't talk about this enough in this session. Re AI, re colon AI creative across this. How do you guys think about so we got a lot of strong takes in here about AI. Like there's two counter arguments right now on this. There's the claymation ads are fucking ripping, brother. I mean, if you're in me and Shireen's X feed, you'll see that a lot. Do the claymation ads, do the like, and I always say like every single new ad category is just an creative arbitrage that's going to die in 6 to 9 months. I've seen it for years. It's the same thing. UGC was cool, and the arbitrage opportunity 3 years ago. Now it's just part of your ad account. So I know we just said what not to do, but AI came up, and I think it matters to finish off with this. Um, how do you how are you guys thinking about leveraging AI creative in part of your creative stack? Because I don't think you can't use it, right? It's more about how do you deploy it in a way that's not going to be damaging, and you think will help you win, um, versus not. And I'd be curious, Shireen, on your take on this because you're working with different brands at different levels, but it's kind of some more scaled brands right now.
Yeah, yeah, it's really hard for like brands that care about brand. And then I think like the consumer, the average regular consumer, not us here on the call, but like the average like consumer has a poor taste in their mouth with it because they've heard
Yeah.
like all the stories of doomerism. So I agree with Phoenix. If consumers can sniff it, it's actually worse than having it. And it works really like I think it works really well if your customer's old and you always want to have like the old customer that can't tell what's going on, but there's a ceiling to that. Yeah, so I haven't found success yet. I mean, we're testing some of the claymation stuff for clients too. Um,
Yeah. What about Cam? What do you got? What do you think about this right now? Are you guys using any of it at Portland?
So in the beginning of their time on TikTok Shop, and I say our time now, they didn't want it, right? We were trying to do whatever we could to remove AI content from representing the brand on TikTok. And I'll say this, and this is, nothing against TikTok. They want it. They're actively pushing for it. They're actively prioritizing it. Um, and they're actively like not prioritizing removing it from the platform. So I think
Yeah.
we're gonna at least at the moment, we're gonna have to lean into it per their like requirements in some ways. I love Phoenix's idea of having a marketing account dedicated to AI content that everyone knows exactly what it is. And you can get AI content that looks very, very, very close to what the actual product looks like.
Yeah.
I'm not against it at all if it's done in the right way, right? I'm
Yeah.
not going to speak to healthcare and all that. Like I want to stay in my lane with all that, but um, I think that, and this is just a broad statement, we're going to all have to play TikTok's game to win on the platform.
Yeah. Yeah. We've all been playing to Meta's tune. The amount of people are like, oh, Lattice and Gem, like you still got to play. What are you gonna do?
Yep, yep. Don't
So
fight
I
against it.
yeah, don't fight against it. What about you, Phoenix? We'll close this off.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of AI voiceovers, even though 8 out of 10 times a real person's voice does better. But we do it for volume and at scale. I'm a big fan of Pixar style AI type storytelling. I think it rips. I get to see it on the meta side, not so much on the TikTok side anymore, in terms of like how Like CAC specifically, I'm getting killed by AI ads versus my face ad. It's like driving me nuts. But I think there is room for it in a tasteful way. I think it comes down to your own moral code as a brand and what you're willing to put out there and balancing volume versus like, again, with healthcare, I would never do that. I would never do that where I pretend to be a person, have these claims. Like that is just wrong in my opinion. However, if you are going to play the game for volume, maybe an AI voiceover, narrative ad, etc., if you can have the product in place, but maybe not have a girl, like my biggest problem is like the girl wearing the bodysuit, because I've almost been duped about it a million times and then finding out that will never look like that on me because that's not a real person and that's not how that really looks. Like that's a problem.
Yeah.
So what I'll say is I think TikTok is necessary. It's a necessary, I won't call it an evil. It's a necessary tool and resource. How you use it is super important. And then just go from there.
Well,
Awesome. Those are great words to wrap up with. What do you think, Chase? How we do? You're
Fuego.
getting so many questions in the chat. People are also shouting you guys out. Cherene, you too, especially. And I'll just reiterate her answer to the question. It is not too late to get into social commerce.
No.
AI has not taken over yet. This is the one area of marketing that is wholly human dependent. So thank you guys so much for dropping the knowledge.